had a really hard time trying to figure out what to read this week. Lately, I've read a lot of really good books, and it's always hard to try to choose what to read after an amazing book because you don't want that book to overshadow your next read, and you just get the feeling that nothing's really going to live up to that, which can start a really bad reading slump. So I thought it would be a good idea to maybe read something that I know I'm going to love because I've already read the first book in this trilogy, and that is The Dark Artifices by Cassie Clare. I read Lady Midnight back in 2016 when it first came out, and although I did continue to buy her new books as they came out, I didn't end up reading any of them after that one because I felt like I had kind of forgotten what had happened in her previous novels and forgotten some of the characters. I didn't want to continue on with the series or the world of Shadowhunters until I had reread The Mortal Instruments and The Infernal Devices and basically all of the books that came out before Lady Midnight. So last year I actually did that. I accomplished it. I read The Mortal Instruments, The Infernal Devices, The Eldest Curses, and all of the novellas that came out prior to this one, and I am finally ready to pick back up where I left off. I can honestly say I don't remember a single thing that happens in Lady Midnight. It will be like reading it for the first time all over again. And then I also just checked out another audiobook from my library, and that one is Dyscalculia by Kimon Felix. I have never heard of this one before, but it really intrigued me. The cover definitely first caught my eye, and then the premise of it sounds very unique, and I think it will be a very insightful read. It is a memoir about Kimon going through a really hard breakup and then ending up being hospitalized and dealing with that along with like her childhood trauma and her mental health and kind of healing from that. And I definitely think this one is something I'm going to learn something from. I love to read and listen to memoirs and people's life stories. I feel like we can learn so much from other people and what they've experienced. So I'm very looking forward to listening to this one throughout the week. But for right now, I think I'm going to curl up in my office here and start Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. The other night I finished Dyscalculia by Kimon Felix, and it only took me 2 sittings to finish it. It was only 2 hours long, and I think I had it at 1.5 times speed, so it even went like a little bit quicker than that. And I must say I really liked this book. I found it very unique and it was very poetically written, and I actually found out after I finished it that Kimon Felix actually writes poetry, so I'll definitely be looking at some of her other works because I really liked her style of writing, and I thought the way she wrote this book was absolutely beautiful and lyrical. Since it is a memoir, I'm not going to rate it, but I definitely recommend it to people who like poetry. If you are not really into poetry or things that are poetically written or lyrically written, I might suggest to skip this one just because I feel like it's probably not for everybody. I also suggest if you do want to pick this one up that you check the content warnings because there are quite a few dark topics that are touched on throughout this. Obviously, she talks about childhood trauma, the end of a relationship, and mental health, so that can be kind of hard to read and listen to sometimes, so definitely keep that in mind. But overall, I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well written and super unique. I can't see myself ever experiencing a book quite like that one. I'm definitely happy that I stumbled upon it on Libby. Then I'm also about halfway through Lady Midnight now. I've been just kind of reading this slowly over the past couple of nights, and I am really liking it so far. I honestly don't remember a single thing that happens in this, even though I've read it before. Something I don't like about this book in particular that I haven't had an issue with in any of Cassandra Clare's other novels, but this one it's bothering me, is that there is a very large number of characters in this book, and a lot of them are children and siblings, so it's very hard to keep them straight. It took me like the first 200 to 250 pages to finally kind of get it set in my mind who is who. And another thing I think is that she wrote them a little bit young for their actual ages. Like, to me, the 13-year-old, her name is Drew, she acts more like she's like probably 10, and the 7-year-old acts and is treated more like a 5-year-old. I don't know, they just seem kind of written younger than they actually are to me. I'm not sure if that's just me going off of my own personal experiences or if other people found that too. I'm not sure, but that is bothering me a little tiny bit, I will say. But other than that, the plot is very good. I don't remember any of it, and I definitely do want to continue reading it and find out what happens next, because like many of Cassandra Clare's books, you honestly don't want to put it down. A lot of them are very high stakes, kind of life or death situations, so definitely liking that aspect of it. I love being in her world of shadow hunters. I find that world very nostalgic since I read a lot of it when I was a teenager, so I am definitely having a good time reading it. I'm just finding that I personally am not liking it quite as much as The Mortal Instruments and The Infernal Devices yet. Who knows, maybe that will change. I think it's just the characters I'm not as attached to at this point. Anyway, I think I am going to curl up here in my chair with Minnie apparently and continue reading some Lady Midnight. I am now on page 542 of Lady Midnight, and I must say I have gotten more attached to the main characters as the story has progressed, and I definitely care about them all more than I initially did the first like 200 to 300 pages, but I still feel like it's hard to keep them straight sometimes and remember who is who, and I feel like if I finished this one and didn't pick up the sequel right away, I probably would not remember any of the characters. But I love how Cassandra Clare weaves some of her characters from her previous novels into this one, and she does that all throughout all of the Shadowhunter books. But this one, it seems like one of my favorite characters from the Infernal Devices is going to be in this series a little bit more. They haven't been in this book much at all yet, but it has been kind of alluding to him being either at the end of this one or in the sequels, so I'm very looking forward to that. But I have a day off of work today, so I definitely think I want to try to finish this one today because it is so good. I did not want to put it down last night, but I got super tired and actually had to stop reading in the middle of a chapter after something crazy just happened. I just could not keep my eyes open any longer. But before I start reading, I'm going to start planting some of my seeds for my vegetable garden indoors. So I'm going to do that and read and probably make decaf coffee and just try to have a cozy, relaxing day off. And I will talk to you guys probably once I finish Lady Midnight. I just finished Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, and I really enjoyed this one, especially towards the end. I loved how Cassandra Clare ended up incorporating characters from previous novels into this one, and in true Cassandra Clare fashion, there are definitely some unanswered questions that makes you want to instantly pick up the sequel. So I definitely think I'm going to start Lord of Shadows either tonight or tomorrow. I'm not entirely sure yet. I don't want to start it right this second just because I feel like I need a little break from reading right now. As for Lady Midnight, I felt like the first half of this book to me was probably 3 stars. It was a bit slow, and like I had said before, I had a really hard time kind of differentiating some of the characters, and they felt like they were written a little too young for their actual ages. Obviously, you're kind of world building, even though this world has been established already, I feel like it still needs to be kind of explained as either reminders, or maybe people are jumping into the world of Shadowhunters through this book and they've never read any of the previous ones. I don't recommend that, by the way. I recommend starting with the Mortal Instruments and kind of going from there. The second half of this book felt more like 5-star vibes, so I'm gonna settle for 4 stars for this book. Still really good, and I can't wait to start Lord of Shadows, but I am just going to enjoy the rest of my day off from work, and I will talk to you guys again once I have started Lord of Shadows. So I'm now on page 49 of Lord of Shadows. I'm definitely enjoying the pace at the beginning of this one a lot more than how Lady Midnight started. This one has already started off fast-paced, so I'm really enjoying that. My boyfriend just bought this beanbag chair the other day, and I thought it would be great for reading, but I'm having a really hard time actually getting comfortable in it. I'm not sure if it's because it's overstuffed or I'm just not used to it. Hopefully after I use it a little bit more, I can kind of figure out what sitting positions are a little bit more comfortable on it, and it feels like it could be a very cozy vibe and a new favorite spot to read potentially. I just have to figure out how to make it a little bit more comfortable. I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna get back to reading Lord of Shadows. So I'm now on page 335 of Lord of Shadows, and I must say that the complaint I had in Lady Midnight, where the characters were written a little too young for their actual ages, seems like it's been kind of fixed in the sequel so far. I haven't been as conscious of that in this book, and I definitely find that they've been written to be more their actual ages. I know part of it could actually maybe be character development, and maybe that's what Cassandra Clare had in mind all along. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I definitely don't have any complaints about that in this one because I feel like for the most part that issue that I had has been resolved, and I also still find that this one has been a lot more engaging than Lady Midnight and definitely feels a little bit more high stakes. I have been reading it into the wee hours of the night and have not wanted to put it down in the past couple days, but I have had to because I do need to get up for work in the morning. Unfortunately, that can't be helped. Now I think I'm going to curl up for a little bit and read a little bit more. I cannot wait until I finally have another day off so I can binge read this because it is all I want to do, and I have not been able to do that so far. So I am definitely looking forward to that. So it's been about a week since I last talked to you. I got sick, so I really didn't film anything, and I actually didn't read much either because the headache I had with whatever virus I got was very intense, so it was really hard to focus on reading while I had that. I am still kind of getting over this virus. You can probably kind of hear it in my voice a bit, but I definitely feel a lot better today than I have the previous week. I did, however, end up finishing Lord of Shadows, and I'm definitely rating this one 5 stars. I really, really loved this one. It was definitely more intriguing than Lady Midnight was, and the ending was absolutely insane. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but right when I put this one down, I did actually end up picking up Queen of Air and Darkness the exact same day because the ending was just insane. So I actually ended up getting to page 99 of Queen of Air and Darkness. So far, this one is just as good as Lord of Shadows and was super high stakes right from the beginning. This one is 900 pages though, so definitely the biggest out of the 3 of them. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go because we are 100 pages in and I can't even fathom what is going to happen in the next 800 pages just because of how crazy the first 100 pages were of this. I will say, however, that Cassandra Clare did kind of clarify, I guess, why the children in these books were possibly written younger than what their ages really are. And for reference, Tavi is 7 years old, and to me it kind of felt like he was written more like a 5-year-old. On page 14 it says, though Tavi was getting awfully big to be carried, Mark thought, but in many ways Tavi was young for his age, as if early grief had kept him more childlike. So I guess that kind of explained why those younger characters were actually acting younger and written younger than their actual ages. So I will give her that. I guess I can't complain about that. The only thing I would say is I think that that could have been mentioned earlier on, maybe just to explain it a little bit more at the beginning, because saying that they experienced grief at a young age isn't a spoiler or anything like that. It's known right from the beginning. I definitely think that that could have been maybe brought up in the first one, just because I feel like grief also affects people differently. Some kids would probably grow up a lot faster because of dealing with grief very early on in their childhood. I am so excited to finally be able to read again and focus on words. I can't even tell you how much Criminal Minds I recently watched just because I could not read anything. It was kind of nice to just watch TV for a little bit instead and not even really feel guilty about not reading, but I'm really excited to get back into Queen of Air and Darkness, so I'm going to do that right now. I just wanted to quickly interrupt my reading, I guess, just to say, I meant to say this earlier when I was talking about Queen of Air and Darkness, but I completely forgot. This one is actually illustrated. Oh, I don't want to show you that one. I don't think any of the Shadowhunter books that I've read thus far have been illustrated, save for obviously the graphic novels. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous and they go with it so well. I was shocked when I came across the first one. I had no idea these were in here and they're so beautiful. So now I'm wondering if there are other editions with illustrations in some of the previous ones and I just didn't know about it, or if they only did it for Queen of Air and Darkness. I'm not really sure, but it's a very nice touch and I really love that they did that. I was very surprised and they're just so gorgeous. I actually read quite a bit yesterday. I ended up getting to page 414 of Queen of Air and Darkness, so I'm now on part 2. I'm pretty sure this book is split into 2 parts. It might be 3, I'm not entirely sure yet at the moment, and I don't really want to look ahead because I don't want to accidentally spoil it for myself. I did not want to put it down yesterday. It has gotten so good, and it was actually kind of reminding me of something, but I could not figure out what it was, and it was really bothering me because I'd felt like I'd read or seen something very similar to how the plot is right now. And then last night while I was trying to sleep, I was kind of thinking about it a little bit more, and I realized it is reminding me of the Phineas and Ferb movie, Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension. And if you know, you know. That is all I'll say. I know that is a totally weird thing to compare this to. It's what it's reminding me of, which is kind of funny, kind of random. It just really caught me off guard once I realized what this book was reminding me of. But anyway, I am going to get back to reading this. I worked today and the entire day I was just thinking about this book and I could not wait to get home and finally read it again. So hopefully I get to read at least like 100 pages tonight. Last night I finished Queen of Air and Darkness. I did not know how it was possible to have this be at 900 pages and where on earth it was going to go plot-wise, but I can now safely say that every single page counts, and I can't imagine this being any shorter than 900 pages, but I definitely loved the ending. I am only going to assume that it continues on in some of her other novels. Doesn't tie up all of the loose ends, I will leave it at that. From like the beginning to the very end of this book, it was absolutely insane, and I did not ever want to put it down. It was really hard because I had to work a lot, and I was also sick while reading this one, so I couldn't read as much as I wanted to, but I'm so glad to finally be finished it, and I absolutely loved it. This is definitely one that whenever I go to reread anything about the Shadowhunters, I'll definitely be picking up this trilogy. It's just insane how much work Sandra Clare has put into this world, and how many characters she has, and plots and stories, and this trilogy just added to it so nicely. Once again, just the artwork in this one, absolutely breathtaking. I loved it. I will say some of the pictures didn't match exactly what she was describing, so I had to stare at it a little bit longer to figure out like if it was a group picture, who was who kind of thing, but it's absolutely beautiful, and I loved to kind of just have pictures to kind of break up really long chapters and such. But anyways, that is going to do it for me for this vlog. I feel like I've been filming this vlog for a month, and I honestly think I have, so I'm going to leave it here, but I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and happy reading.